And my commitment to the safety of the Jewish people, the security of Israel, and its right to exist as an independent Jewish state is ironclad. Our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad.
Our commitment to Israel is enduring, and it is ironclad.
Our support for Israel's self-defense remains ironclad.
Now that it's official that Kamala Harris has been booted out and the Biden administration has been punished for sponsoring genocide and slaughtering of babies, Democrats are now asking questions about the 15 million missing votes. Okay, Trump has swept polls and managed to win almost all 7 swing states, which is quite extraordinary in itself. But one thing which has left Democrats perplexed is the missing 15 million votes. This is because Kamala Harris received 15 million fewer votes than what genocidal Joe Biden had received in 2020, 4 years ago. Given that this year's US presidential polls saw a record voter turnout of 65%, which is believed to be the second highest turnout in the last century, it's natural for Democrats to wonder why their candidate received 15 million fewer votes. Well, they are fooling themselves if they still do not know the answer. These 15 million voters were those who did not agree with genocidal Joe or Holocaust Harris for sponsoring the slaughtering of innocent Palestinian men, women, children, and babies. They were not just Arabs and Muslims, but voters cutting across racial and religious divides. They were people who stood for humanity. There were people who were moved by the streaming of babies being vaporized by American bombs live on their mobile devices. They were aghast by the continuous vetoing of UN resolutions by their own country calling for an end to the genocide. They were shocked that the peaceful protests on streets and university campuses were being crushed, brutally crushed, in violation of their First Amendment rights. They simply could not recognize their own country. They simply could not make eye contact with their children. They simply could not have their meals knowing that millions in Gaza were being made to starve by their own country's complicity. Only this week, just a day before the crushing defeat of the Democrats, US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller, he was laughing on the misery of those being made to starve by Israeli terrorists in collusion with the Biden administration in northern Gaza. This wasn't the first time we saw an evil display from a member of the Biden administration, which has now become an embodiment of perverseness in the last year of Israel's genocidal campaign against Palestinians.
Just if you look at the stipulated recommendations in the letter, those have not been met at this point.
So that's a fail.
We're not at the end of the period yet. They have not. If you look at the what we ultimately judge, what we ultimately judge on, which is the results on the ground, the results are not good enough today.
Right. No. So that's a fail.
They certainly they certainly do not have a passing grade. They have failed. I said they have failed to implement all of the things that we recommend in that letter. Now that said, we are not at the end of the 30-day period,
okay,
and we are in conversation.
Not ready to give them
it's not the end. It's not the end of the semester. We don't hand out grades in the middle.
Well, I suspect that the levity is a little bit inappropriate.
No,
but look, you guys say they haven't done enough, so it's a fail. We are
not at the end of where we are able to make an assessment.
People like Matthew Miller, they drew inspiration from Zionist Anthony Blinken, who spent more time defending Israeli war crimes than pushing US diplomacy to bring about peace in the region. It was as if he was tasked with only one responsibility, which is to let Israeli terrorists run riot and then use all his might to protect the settler colony from any consequences. So when Israelis broke international laws by attacking sovereign countries like Iran and Lebanon or committing genocide in Gaza, Blinken appeared before the world media to parrot his well-rehearsed lines that Israel had the right to defend. And when countries like Iran launched retaliatory strikes, the same Blinken would tell the world media that Iran did not have the right to defend itself. He insulted an average American's intelligence by routinely pushing nonsensical utterances. Utterances such as these, that even when Israel broke international laws, Hamas was to be blamed.
Yes, so my name is Scott. I'm a Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, Masters of Public Policy candidate. And my question to you is somewhat related with your previous answer. I know that this session is talking about the Indo-Pacific strategy, but of course today we've heard some scary kind of breaking news about the senior Hamas official being killed in Iran. And so I just wanted to get your sense, because I believe this would be the first time that I get to hear about what your perspective is and how this changes the negotiations, because he was at the forefront of Hamas negotiations. So thank you.
Well, of course, I've seen the reports, and all I can tell you right now is I think nothing takes away from the importance of, as I said a moment ago, getting to the ceasefire, which is manifestly in the interests of the hostages and bringing them home. It's manifestly in the interests of Palestinians who are suffering terribly every single day, children, women, men, in Gaza who've been caught in this crossfire of Hamas's making. It's profoundly in the interest of trying to put things on a better path, not only in Gaza, but actually throughout the region, because so much is tied to what's happening in Gaza right now. We've been working from day one not only to try to get to a better place in Gaza, but also to prevent the conflict from spreading, whether it's in the north with Lebanon and Hezbollah, whether it's the Red Sea with the Houthis, whether it's Iran, Syria, Iraq, you name it. And a big key to trying to make sure that that doesn't happen and that we can move to a better place is getting the ceasefire. I'm not going to speculate on what impact any one event might have on that. I've learned over many years never to really speculate about that because we simply don't know. What I do know is the enduring imperative of getting the ceasefire, and what I do know is we'll continue to work at that every day.
Another clown, John Kirby, who cried on the deaths of Ukrainians, was justifying the slaughtering of Palestinians, saying that this was war, which was ugly, and innocent do die in wars.
It's hard to look at what he's doing in Ukraine, what his forces are doing in Ukraine, and think that any ethical, moral individual could justify that. It's difficult to look at the It's difficult to look at some of the images and imagine that any well-thinking, serious, mature leader would do that. So I can't talk to his psychology, but I think we can all speak to his depravity.
This is war. It is combat. It is bloody. It is ugly, and it's going to be messy. And innocent civilians are going to be hurt going forward. I wish I could tell you something different. I wish that that wasn't going to happen.
Then there was this disgusting woman called Linda Thomas Greenfield, Whitefield or Yellowfield, who should forever be identified as everything evil in the world. There were countless moments when she shamed humanity. But I'll play this clip when Israelis committed war crimes in northern Gaza. Just watch her muted criticism of Israel before laying all the blame on Hamas.
I don't know how many people in this room have watched a child die of starvation. I have. It was nearly 3 decades ago, but it's the kind of memory that one doesn't forget. Her rib bones poking out from under her skin, bloated belly, gaunt eyes. And I remember her mother's eyes filled with despair. And I think about her as we have seen reports that no food assistance has reached Jabalia or Beit Lahia since early October. About the ribs and the bellies, the eyes of children in northern Gaza. and about their parents, themselves having gone days without food, desperate to save them. This unimaginable suffering was set in motion by Hamas on October 7th, and the United States has not been shy about criticizing this council's failure to condemn Hamas's atrocities and repeated violations of international law. Many in this council have not done as of yet. At the same time, the United States has made clear to Prime Minister Netanyahu that 1 year into this conflict, Israel must address the catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Gaza, that the United States rejects any Israeli efforts to starve Palestinians in Jabalia or anywhere else, and that Israel's words must be matched by action on the ground. Right now, that is not happening. This must change immediately. The U.S. has stated clearly that Israel must allow food, medicine, and other supplies into all of Gaza, especially the north, and especially as winter sets in, and protect the workers distributing it. In this regard, I reiterate our deep concerns about legislation adopted by the Knesset regarding UNRWA. There's no denying the fact some UNRWA personnel were involved in the October 7 attacks. This council heard directly from families of hostages taken into Gaza by UNRWA staff, as we just heard from the Israeli ambassador. UNRWA itself has confirmed that there were some Hamas members found among its personnel. In addition, though we acknowledge the steps UNRWA has taken to implement the reforms outlined in the Kamala report, we need this progress to accelerate.
Those who did not agree with the Democrats' support for the Israeli genocide were made to resign. War criminals such as Biden, Blinken, Jake Sullivan, Miller, Kirby, Greenfield, and others thought that there would never be any consequences for their war crimes. So when you wonder what happened to those missing 15 million voters, reflect on your conduct in the last 1 year to understand that not all in your party have been as evil as you guys have been. At least there were 15 million humans whose hearts bled for humanity, and they chose to do their bit to punish the supporters of genocide. So there's no point blaming Arabs, Muslims, blacks, or Russians for your defeat. Blame your ironclad support for a genocidal regime.
And my commitment to the safety of the Jewish people, the security of Israel, and its right to exist as an independent Jewish state is ironclad. Our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad.
Our commitment to Israel is enduring, and it is ironclad.
As I always do, as President Biden always does, America's ironclad commitment to Israel's security.
Our support for Israel's self-defense remains ironclad.
That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymecoffee.com and Patreon. If you too think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.